Okay, looks like it's 6 o'clock, so I call this December 12th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. First, I'd like to welcome our newest member, John Segura, in the at-large seat. Welcome to the commission. Are there any changes or updates to the agenda? Do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. And any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Antonio.
Give it to Antonio.
All right, on to the first item of business, rezoning 22-40.
Good evening, everybody. Our first case this evening is for case number 22-40 for Ernesto Rodriguez on Churchill Road in Rock Hill, tax map number 54400000201. So the request here is to rezone a 2.1 acre parcel from GC to LI, general commercial to light industrial. The purpose for the rezoning is to locate a trucking operation on this site. And the activities included in that operation include parking, dispatching, and repair of tractor-trailer trucks. And I added here a definition as to how we actually define what a trucking operation is. And this is a facility for the dispatch, storage, and maintenance of operable trucks and trailers. There is no assemblage here and no storage of property on that site. The result here for this rezoning is a result of a code enforcement case. The applicant had moved into the property without getting proper zoning compliance. There was no site plan approval. He began operating his business at that location without any kind of approvals. And we also had to do a stop work order because he graded the property and removed a variety of trees. And so then that became an issue, and it became a code enforcement case and requires a rezoning to LI for this use. Property is located on Churchill Road, which is in the Rock Hill area, just on the city limits, just in the Celanese, north of Celanese. Zooming in here, the property is highlighted. Around there is a strip commercial center. There is a very large neighborhood behind it. And in front of there are a few residential homes being used as a variety of uses. Topography or environmental issues, there's nothing on the site. As I mentioned here, the property is currently zoned GC, general commercial. There is some light industrial in the area. There are 3 parcels that are currently zoned light industrial, but none are used in that fashion. One of them is still a single family home, never changed anything but that. One of them is a medical office building, and one's a chiropractor. So although they are zoned LI, they are not used for light industrial. Other areas is some general commercial, but the predominant area here is RSF 40 for residential. Given the current uses there, the comprehensive land use plan recommends for this area here is residential and to maintain that. And as you know, that consists of low-density neighborhoods that are rural and suburban in character. You can do some commercial on intersections of major highways, major roads. I've added a couple of images to the site itself if you haven't seen it. This is an existing building. Here, this used to be a auto repair business at this location here before they closed down and sold the property. Here are some existing tractor trailers on the property right now. I mentioned also in the staff report the access. Coming down this road here, making this turn onto Churchill is a very tight curve. Not too sure these trucks make it without having to either go through that existing neighborhood or shopping center or take out part of this grass area here. Here are some existing trucks that are on the site as well. Staff does recommend denial for this request here. It does not align with the comprehensive plan or the future land use map. The uses allowed by LI are not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The LI district is much more intense than the existing GC. The property owner could continue by right with doing something in a GC district because it's already zoned that way, but going to the next level of light industrial does not go with the comprehensive plan or the area. And as I mentioned before here, existing parcel layout and everything may make it very difficult to be able to have that truck access without damaging the road or impeding traffic. Any questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question. Can you go back to the slide with the definition?
There you go.
Okay, so you had wrote that they're doing a trucking operation and dispatching, but the application only talks about repairs.
That's correct. And we've had a lot of back and forth about what you're doing. And he actually completed a zoning compliance letter to define what you're actually doing, and it is a trucking operation. And they are dispatching trucks from there. When they originally came in, they were just talking about the repair, but we noticed and we've tracked it and followed it and watched it. It's a trucking operation where there are trucks being dispatched from that location, parked there for for a couple of days, sent back out for runs, and then come back. So it's trucking operation.
And so is the code enforcement case still pending? I see what failure to comply with stop work order related to land clearing. So I assume while all this was trying to be sorted out, you all asked them to stop doing what, and they continued?
Yeah, so we stopped, the stop work order was for land clearing, and so they did continue for a little while to clear the property after we issued the stop work order, but then they have since ceased that. And so, but they are, typically if we have a code enforcement case that involves a use violation, we allow them, the code actually allows them to stay any kinds of fines or violations. They can continue to operate until we get this sorted out, essentially. So that's why they have had some limited access to the property to do that. They, I believe, moved in here in September of this year.
Aubrey, next time, if you can push your button so that they can get that. Thank you.
So previously, it was an auto repair business. If it was just a truck repair business, would that still be like a continuity thing where it would?
No, if it was, we've even said, if it's a tractor truck repair business, it's an LI use.
Okay.
And that was we were defining to say that if you're autos and cars and trucks, small trucks, passenger vehicles, that can be in GC. But anything larger than that, because the intensity of the use of the property is much, much greater, and so therefore it goes to LI.
Are there any further questions of staff? Yes, sir.
Yeah, one about so I tried to find that designation. Could you clarify for me what you just said about the difference between smaller vehicle and larger vehicle repair?
Right. The code is it's not as clear as we'd like it to be, perhaps, in the trucking. It just says trucks, vehicles and trucks, and that is, we interpret that as being trucks, cars, boats, the smaller scale ones.
Okay.
And that's why the trucking operation, the repairing of that, is that larger scale. So we put it into the LI. But the code does not say specifically tractor trailer trucks. We interpret that as being passenger trucks.
Okay. And the second question is, just overall, if these folks wanted to do this, they'd have to have a business license, wouldn't they?
No, not in the county.
Not in the county.
Do not require a business
No
license.
business
That's why we have a
license of
zoning
anything.
compliance form. And
Okay.
so when they have a change of use, which is if you buy some property and if you move in, you complete a zoning compliance form.
Okay.
They did not do that. At that point, we would establish whether or not they could do that use.
That was my other question about how the thresholds work, so I think I got it. Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane, just to make sure that I'm clear, because I too look for this trucking distinguishing, and you're correct. It does say, excuse me, it does say just trucks, but either way it goes, even if they were working on the trucks, as Matt asked, or working on regular vehicles, it would be fine. Working on tractor trailers or any trucks would go into LI as opposed to GC, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so in this particular case, the not being very explicit about the definition of trucks is really kind of irrelevant. Am I understanding that correct?
That's a very good point. That is correct, because they're physically actually more than just working on trucks. They are storing, dispatching, trucks are coming and going from this site.
Okay.
So it's a trucking operation.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion? I'll make a motion to go with staff's recommendation to deny. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. On to item 222-43.
Case number 2243 for Lisa and Jerry Dozier on Gordon Road in Rock Hill at tax map number 437-0000040. The request here is to rezone a 2-acre portion of a 13-acre parcel from AGC1 to RUD. And the purpose of this request is to be able to create one new parcel to construct a home for a family member. Parcel is located off of Gordon Road, which is just north of 324. On the map here, you can see that little blue area, and that's the area, to the best we can tell at this point, where it's going to be locating that 2-acre tract. Zooming in here, you can see there's an existing home right now. This parcel, this new location will be roughly where it's at. When we get further in the process, they'll actually provide us a survey to identify exactly where it's going to be. But I think it's going to actually be part of the tree lines as well. And they will access from the existing driveway, which is allowed by the code to be able to access the driveway with an easement. As far as the environmental property for this property here, there is a couple of creeks on the property. It's heavily wooded. It is sloped down towards the creeks. The area here for zoning, the majority of this area is AGC and AGC1. However, there is some RUD1 nearby, and the parcels that are just adjacent to this property, while they're AGC, they are also already smaller lots. Comprehensive plan for the area here is agricultural. Rural residential is just north of there. And as we know from agricultural, that's typically for single-family homes, working farms, forestry, and it does allow for, like I said, working farms, but it's 5-acre lots for AGC and agriculture. Staff recommends approval for the zoning request. It's mostly compliant with the comprehensive plan, mostly consistent. The request is not removing existing farm. They are not farming this property. We aren't losing any kind of large agricultural property. And this is allowed in both AGC and RUD are very similar. Any questions for staff?
Did you have a question? Okay, hearing no questions, do we have a motion?
I move to approve as staff recommends for this one.
Do we have a, okay. Any further discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, all in favor? Okay, that looks unanimous. On to item 22-45.
Case number 2245 on Foothills Way in Fort Mill. It's tax map number 72300000046. The request is to rezone a 4-acre parcel from UD to LI. And the purpose is the applicant intends to be able to construct an additional building on their property to improve their operations. In order to do that, if they were doing it in UD, they would be required to do some extra site design in terms of the building itself. If they rezone the property to LI, they would be exempt from the majority of those building requirements. That's why they're doing this. Foothills Way is over in the Carowinds area. It's just south of Carowinds Boulevard, west of I-77. This area here is one of the inner changes from I-77. There's a lot of gas stations, fast food restaurants, hotels, typical from Carowinds. There's also some light industrial buildings around here off of using Lakemont Boulevard in that development. This property is relatively flat. There's no environmental features. There is still some UD, as this property is in here, but a lot of it is changing over. We had one recently that was zoned just south of here. There was LI, or there was UD to LI, so we're trying to kind of pick away at some of this UD property through here. It's located within the I-77 employment corridor as well as a community center. And that corridor, as you know, is there to be able to attract target industries of regional and statewide importance. It's also within a commercial code, which allows for commercial uses, townhomes, also apartments. Staff is recommending approval. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and this action will remove yet one more UD zone parcel. Any questions for staff?
So is the intent of removing some of those requirements as a way to entice people to get rid of the UD?
Yes,
Yes,
that was one of
okay.
the reasons why we did that, why we
Okay.
made the UD not exempt, and that was
Right.
to encourage folks to rezone that property.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any further questions of staff?
For my own knowledge, so what type of differences?
It's a very long laundry list of things. It could be in terms of somewhat materials, it could be having to have additional windows or modulation, articulation in the building itself. So a lot more requirements that's required now for non-commercial uses. And so they would be able to be exempt from that. There's still a few things I have to do regardless of that, but it's much taken away, a lot of the really intensive ones that are more appropriate for larger scale products.
So you don't necessarily have to make it pretty.
Exactly,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Any further questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. On to item 22-46.
Case number 22-46 for Sarah Love and William King on Eastview Road in Rock Hill. Tax map number 50400000048. The request here is to rezone a 33-acre parcel from RMX 20 to RUD1. And the purpose for this rezoning request is to be able to combine this parcel with the property right next to it, 72-acre large property that's zoned RUD1. And the applicant intends to be able to then create 2 or 3 lots from this new recombined property. This is large family land. They want to be able to bring them together and then realign those properties. It's located off of Eastview Road. It is actually has access off of 2 cul-de-sacs within this neighborhood right here. It's over here, and they have access right there and there. The property up next to it, just to the east, is where they're going to be recombining, and then at that point, they'll all access everything off of Eastview Road. It's a heavily wooded site right now. It's vacant. There is a neighborhood just to the west of that. As you can see here, there are some steep topography for this property. There are a few creeks on the land here as well, so they'll be able to recombine where they feel to make some 2 or 3 additional home sites there. It's also a very large floodplain just to the north. This is all part of the property to be recombined. In the area for zoning, this is an RMX 20. It was for the neighborhood right nearby. There's RUD obviously next door where they're gonna recombine property. The comprehensive plan for the area is showing single-family residential, and that's, as you know here, it's comprised of low-density neighborhoods that are rural or suburban in character, and that sort of lines with what's there right now. We are recommending approval for this one. This is not in line with the comprehensive plan. It's not consistent with the comprehensive plan because the plan saw this area here is to possibly have some future development of a single-family neighborhood. Given the fact there are utilities nearby, there's some resources that are there, and so the plan would want to see this to be developed to a little higher density than going to RUD. However, this action will preclude that from happening in the future. If at some point in time they want to go ahead and develop that further, they'd always come back with the property rezoned. Nothing is happening here to preclude that from happening. So with that, we recommend approval.
Are there any questions of staff? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, that looks unanimous. On to 2247.
Okay, the last one for the evening, 2247 is Bull Creek LLC on York Highway, 446000065. This is to rezone a .68 portion of a 1.5 acre parcel from GC to RMX 10. And the rezoning is required. It'll serve as an entrance point. Okay. Serve as an entrance point for a proposed development to the manufactured home community. Got the heat? I believe so. Okay. And you might remember this project here. We saw this a few months ago. This is for a large manufactured home park to be developed on the adjacent parcel. And after further study, we realized there is a sliver of property where that mobile home park would be accessing across. and therefore the applicant needed to go and get that property also rezoned. Staff recommended denial. You all recommended denial as well. They went to county council. At their public hearing in the first reading for this one, they added a condition, which staff actually encouraged them to do that, was if they wanted to go forward, they had to amend the future land use map. And so at that point, we have to pause everything while the applicant goes and does a future land use map amendment request, which they did. Given the timing of a comprehensive plan update and the future land use map amendment, it doesn't work well to do them at the same time, because our future land use map wasn't changing even for the update to recommend this change. And so we asked the applicant to just pause on their future land use map amendment, and instead to come forward when the comp plan gets the update for the public hearing and make their case to council at that time, and just do it one motion. And so they paused all that. At this point, we're tracking to be able to come forward with that public hearing in January 17th. And so given that that's moving forward, we thought we can go ahead and get this one going. Just in case council does make that map amendment, the applicant would have then gone ahead and gone through these two planning commission first reading, so they can maybe track those together if that's the intention for council to amend the future land use map. So that's kind of giving you an idea as to why we're here and why we're here now. So what we are here about is a 0.68 acre parcel. It's just a portion of that, and that's on the south side of Highway 5. The top portion will stay GC. This parcel was this mess, I should say, was created when they moved Highway 5. And so it bisected this parcel and then I think 2 or 3 more to the west. When they moved the line, they cut parcels in half. And so the top part will stay GC. I believe that's an old welding business that was there at the time. And the bottom part is pretty much a useless piece of property there. As you can see here, it's pretty much just a gully at this point. But it is zoned GC. There is GC, we'll be staying up north of that, and there's still some GC in the area, but there is no RMX 10 around here. Comprehensive land use plan here for showing rural residential, which is for low-density residential neighborhoods, agricultural homesteads, aligned with the RUD zoning district. Just so you had an idea, to remind you what they were planning on doing, this was the mobile home park they wanted to do, and we're looking at a piece of property it's right there. So it's right in this area here, and that access point there is requiring them to get that piece that need to get rezoned. The staff is recommending denial for this one here, as the previous one. The same sort of thing. It's not just with a comprehensive plan. This is not a low-density residential neighborhood. They're putting in too many homes at this location here. It's typically this RMX 10 is found more in a suburban kind of area as opposed to being out in this rural area here. And single-family homes, it's one RUD is better for for 1 acre home lots. So, any questions of staff for this one?
Yeah, so are we only focusing on this portion of the land here that was presented? Or are we focusing on the entire project in itself?
Just that small portion that's presented right now, but everything is kind of looked at in the context of the entire thing. But even if, let's just say this one goes through, it would still be an RMX 10 zone property at 0.68. They could put a house there. It really couldn't, and the property doesn't really work well. But this rezoning would allow the other one to also move forward.
And just to make sure I got an understanding, county council has already, during first reading, approved it with this condition that need to be met,
That's
provided
correct.
it's met, right?
Yes.
I've got a couple quick ones. So the application says that will just serve as an entrance for the property. So why could it not remain GC and become a entrance to the property as it's GC?
Because you cannot, GC does not allow mobile homes, and so even though it's just the entrance, it's still part of the development. It's still,
I see.
it still works with that. And then
Okay.
eventually they would want to recombine that anyway to that little sliver with the parcels behind, with the larger one. So they have to get it rezoned to be able to have the same zoning district.
Okay, so it really is being driven by the whole project trying to pull that in there.
Exactly.
I got you, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So this board this commission denied the mobile home park, went to council, and ultimately have they approved it, or is it just tied up there?
So they approve first reading.
Okay.
With that condition to change the
All right.
land use map. But it's typically if you follow county council, they almost always approve first reading, only because let the process work itself out. And so whether that's indication they would continue on, I don't know, but they did approve first, with that condition, though, of coming back with the future land use map amendment.
All right, so if we were to deny, and let's say it plays itself out with council and it gets approved, then how will you access the mobile home park? Will it just always be a non-conforming use of that slither of land?
So if we were to deny it, I mean, if
If
council
if
was
this
to.
board denies it,
Right, it's a recommendation to deny, then like everything else, so it goes
it'll
to
go to
council.
council, okay.
And then they would then make their final determination.
Are there any further questions of staff? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to deny the request.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? I mean, I look at this and being consistent, we were pretty strongly against the mobile home park out there, so I think if we don't deny this, it's very inconsistent coming from us. Okay, any further discussion?
Disagree. Disagree. Yeah.
This is your last one.
Yeah, and it's gonna have to be a no vote. Going out with a bang.
All right, all in favor of the denial? And those four? Okay. All right, so that is denied. I just have one quick question of staff regarding an item that came before us last month, the grand trees that got removed by the applicant. I drive by that almost every day. It looks like they've removed, looking at the map, it looks like they've removed a couple of those grand trees.
No.
They have not.
They have not. I believe one of them may have been removed, and it was mislocated on the site plan. And so the tree was actually on the apartment portion of that development. And in the location of where it was it's where a road is going through. So if you can imagine that area here, you have 274, the future apartments and the commercial in front of that, a property next to it, and then you also have the,
Tractor Supply?
thank you, Tractor Supply, I'm thinking Trader Joe's, of course it's not Trader Joe's. And they will have a road connecting all through that. And so where that grand tree was located was where that road is going through. So it was mislocated on the site plan. And that part of the development has an approved commercial site plan. And staff does have the authority to be able to allow the removal of a grand tree if it meets certain criteria. And one of them is location of a road. And so we have the authority to do that, but they still have to mitigate. And they're mitigating it a 1-for-1.
So did you grant them
Yes,
that
it was granted that approval.
prior to their removing it?
Yes, yes. To the
Okay.
best of my knowledge, it was. It was
Okay.
granted, it was brought to us, the staff approved that, and then with the mitigation from 1-to-1 for replacements.
Okay, I would like some, I'm probably not gonna be here I'm not gonna be here next month, but I would like that clarified
Sure.
for the board next month, whether or not that approval was actually given before they removed the tree, or if they came hat in hand afterwards and said, oops,
Sure,
we did that.
We can definitely look into that.
I actually have a question about that.
Okay, yeah, hang on one sec. Also, just for future, I mean, I would appreciate if that gets denied, then there's probably not gonna be a road there, so there would be no reason to remove that tree at this time.
If what gets denied,
If they come back before us for the other grand trees, which it sounded like they're probably planning on coming back to remove those other grand trees, if that gets denied, they're gonna have to change things, they may not move forward. So therefore, there would have been no need
well, I think
to remove that in advance.
the other grand trees are all on the front parcel that are not involved whatsoever in the apartments. The other ones are all on the front commercial property, so let's just say that does get denied, and they can go forward with that commercial component of it at the front. The apartments are still approved to go forward, nothing is stopping that. And it would
Right.
still have that road that we would want to continue to have the access point for, so there's nothing that would change.
But they may not, if they can't do both, they may still
That's
consider
on,
not.
but that's on them.
Right,
They could-
exactly, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
until it was fully worked out, I would have liked to have seen them not,
But they had an approved
Yeah.
site plan, and they were allowed to remove that, so.
well, that's why I said if it was approved beforehand.
Right.
I would just like clarification on whether or not that was approved by staff to remove that before they actually
Sure.
did it.
You said it was mislocated. I just kind of find that baffling because they submitted plans. I mean, a surveyor was supposed to locate and then between, yeah, there were two surveys, but really, the other point I'm making is staff and the developers arborist went back and forth for months talking about the health of all these trees. At no point, nobody noticed like it was in the
I-
wrong place.
Can I speak to that? I do not know.
It seems like a very odd story.
I can't speak to the story being odd, this is what I've been told, so.
Oh, I understand, yeah, I understand that.
Again, I'm with you on that. The whole thing is just wrong. So, just some clarification on that
Sure.
before it comes back, because otherwise you're gonna be getting all these questions again. Obviously, with all the emails, the community was completely against it. So I think that they definitely deserve some hard answers on how the heck, after multiple tree services went out, our arborist went out, they had no idea that it was mislocated, was it approved prior to their removal? And then, if they were to remove trees prior to approval, the penalty is like 1 to 5 years with no, so who makes that recommendation? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years?
No, I believe it's written in the say that if it's a grand tree that's been removed, then they cannot submit permits for 1 year. I believe that's what the code says. There are different if you did other things to the site, it would be a 5-year, you can't develop it. So there are different components as to what you're doing, as to which way you go. We don't make a determination, we just go, what was the action, what does the code say? It goes one way to one's 1 year and one's 5 years.
And if it's multiple trees, it's still just 1 year?
It would just be 1 year. We don't say, well, each tree is a year.
Right.
It's the action of.
But I mean,
taking
that's
down a
pretty
grand tree.
flagrant if it's multiples. It should be a harsher penalty. But anyway, I will let that go for now. The tracking sheet, does anyone have any questions or comments on that? Okay, the calendar. It looks like you have 2 possible holiday weekends. April is the day after Easter, which is frequently a long weekend, and then October is Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples' Day, which is also frequently a long weekend. I don't know if that's I'm not gonna be here, but I don't know if that's gonna affect any of you. Too far in advance? Okay. I like my 3-day weekend, so I looked. All right, so do we have a motion to accept the calendar?
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
I second it.
Great.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Bonnie, thank you for the treats again, and thank you as well.